Hello, my name's Leanne Blades. I'm a member of the Broadstairs branch of the Dickens Fellowship. My reading is from Martin Chuzzlewit, chapter 9, in which Mrs. Todgers informs the two Miss Pecksmiths on various topics, including an unfortunate passion she's encountered among commercial gentlemen. It being the second day of their stay in London, the Miss Pecksmiths and Mrs. Todgers were by this time highly confidential, insomuch that the last-named lady had already communicated the particulars of 3 early disappointments of a tender nature, and had furthermore possessed her young friends with a general summary of the life, conduct, and character of Mr. Todgers, who, it seemed, had cut his matrimonial career rather short by unlawfully running away from his happiness and establishing himself in foreign countries as a bachelor. Your pa was once a little particular in his attentions, my dears, said Mrs. Todgers, but to be your ma was too much happiness denied me. You'd hardly know this was done for, perhaps? She called their attention to an oval miniature, like a little blister, which was tacked up over the kettle holder, and in which there was a dreamy shadowing forth of her own visage. "It's a speaking likeness, cried the two Miss Pecksmiths. "It was considered so once," said Mrs. Todgers, warming herself in a gentlemanly manner at the fire. "But I hardly thought you would have known it, my loves." Well, they would have known it anywhere. If they could have met with it in the street or seen it in a shop window, they would have cried, "Good gracious, Mrs. Todgers, Mrs. Todgers!" Presiding over a establishment like this makes sad havoc with the features, my dear Miss Pecksmiths, said Mrs. Todgers. "The gravy alone is enough to add 20 years to one's age, I do assure you." Law, cried the two Miss Pecksmiths. "The anxiety of that one item, my dears," said Mrs. Todgers, "keeps the mind continually upon the stretch. There is no such passion in human nature as the passion for gravy among commercial gentlemen. Oh, it's nothing to say a joint won't yield. Well, a whole animal wouldn't yield the amount of gravy they expect each day at dinner. And what I have undergone in consequence," said Mrs. Todgers, raising her eyes and shaking her head, "no one would believe."
Hello, my name is Helen Root. I'm from the Broadstairs Dickens Fellowship, and I'm going to read from the Pickwick Papers. It's a section where Sam Weller is talking to the fat boy, and he's going to tell him a tale, a cautionary tale.
He was one of the largest patterns that ever turned out. A regular fat man. Hadn't seen a glimpse of his own shoes in 45 years. He always walked to his office with a very handsome gold watch chain and hanging out about 1.25 foot, and a gold watch in his fob pocket, as was worth, well, I'm afraid to tell you how much it was worth. As much as a watch can be, a large, heavy, round, manufactured stouter watch, as he was stout a man with a big face in proportion. "You had better not carry that here watch," says the old gentleman's friends. "You'll get robbed of it," says they. "Oh, shall I?" says he. "Yes, you will," says they. "Well," says he, "I should like to see the thief as could get this here watch out, for I'm blessed if I can. It's such a tight fit. And whenever I want to know what o'clock it is, I'm obliged to stare at the baker's shop." And then he laughs. He laughs as hearty as if he's going to go to pieces, and out he walks again with his powdered head and pigtail, and he rolls along the strand with the chain and hanging out even further than ever. And the great round watch is bursting through his Kirksey smalls. There weren't a pickpocket in all of London hadn't taken a pull of that chain, but the chain, it'd never break, and the watch, it'd never come out. At last, one day, the old gentleman is a-rolling along, and he sees a pickpocket, as he knows by sight, coming up arm in arm with a little boy with a well large head. "Here's the game," says the old gentleman to himself. "They're a-going to have another try, but they won't do it." And he begins a chuckling very heartily when, all of a sudden, the little boy leaves hold of the pickpocket's arm, and he rushes head foremost straight into the old gentleman's stomach, and for a moment, he doubles him up right with pain. "Murder!" shouts the old gentleman. "You all right, sir?" says the pickpocket, whispering in his ears, and when the old man comes straight again, the watch and the chain was a-gone. And what's worse than that, the old gentleman's digestion was all wrong ever afterwards, to the very last day of his life. So you just look about you, young fella, and take care you don't get too fat.
My name is Val Whitehouse, and I belong to the Broadstairs Dickens Fellowship. My reading today is from our mutual friend. Mr. and Mrs. Boffin, newly wealthy, wish to adopt a child, and they go to the Reverend and Mrs. Milby for advice. "Mrs. Boffin wishes to adopt a little boy, my dear." Mrs. Milby, looking rather alarmed, her husband added, "An orphan, my dear." "Oh," said Mrs. Milby, reassured for her own little boys. "And I was thinking, Margaretta, that perhaps old Mrs. Goody's grandchild might answer the purpose." "Oh, my dear Frank, I don't think that would do." "No?" "Oh, no, I don't think," said Mrs. Milby, glancing at the Reverend Frank, "and I believe my husband will agree with me when he considers it again, that you could possibly keep that orphan clean from snuff, because his grandmother takes so many ounces and drops it over him." "But he would not be living with his grandmother then, Margaretta." "No, Frank, but it would be impossible to keep her from Mrs. Boffin's house, and the more there was to eat and drink there, the oftener she would go. And she is an inconvenient woman. I hope it's not uncharitable to remember that last Christmas Eve she drank 11 cups of tea and grumbled all the time. And she is not a grateful woman, Frank. You recollect her addressing a crowd outside this house about her wrongs, when one night after we had gone to bed she brought back the petticoat of new flannel that had been given her because it was too short." "That's true. I don't think that would do." "What little Harrison?" "Oh, Frank!" "He has no grandmother, my dear." "No, but I don't think Mrs. Boffin would like an orphan who squints so much." "That's true again," said Mr. Milby, becoming haggard with perplexity. "If a little girl would do." "But, my dear Frank, Mrs. Boffin wants a boy." "That's true again." "Tom Brocker is a nice boy." "But I doubt, Frank," Mrs. Milby hinted after a little hesitation, "if Mrs. Boffin wants an orphan quite 19, who drives a cart and waters the roads. I'm sure, said Mrs. Boffin, concerned at giving so much trouble, that if I'd known you would have taken so much pains, sir, and you too, ma'am, I don't think I would have come. Pray, don't say that, urged Mrs. Milby. No, don't say that, assented Mr. Milby, because we are so much obliged to you for giving us the preference, which Mrs. Milby confirmed. And really the kind, conscientious couple spoke as if they kept some profitable orphan warehouse and were personally patronised.